Good morning, I'm Trinity Chavez. It is Friday, November 10th, and you are watching NYSE TV Live. We are coming to you from the New York Stock Exchange, the epicenter of the global financial markets on the corner of Wall and Broad Streets in Lower Manhattan. And today is a very special day as the New York Stock Exchange celebrates Veterans Day. The highest ranking officer in the U.S. Army and member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Randy George, will deliver remarks from the boardroom and ring the opening bell. The United States Marine Corps will be celebrating its 248th birthday below on the trading floor. And what's a birthday without cake? We'll show you the cake cutting when it happens in just a little while. And finally, we'll speak to veterans who are working right here at the New York Stock Exchange. To honor the occasion, we also have Veterans Day branding all over this iconic building, from the cubes behind me above the trading floor to its banner streamed across the facade of the New York Stock Exchange. General Randy George, Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, will ring the opening bell and open up the U.S. equity markets. General Randy George and the military members at the New York Stock Exchange are receiving the clap-on as they walk onto the floor in just a little while. But first, Veterans Day, formerly known as Armistice Day, is observed every single year on the anniversary of the end of World War I, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month on 1918, honoring all of those who have served in the military, past or present. One veteran in particular who we would like to recognize is the architect of today's show, NYSE Director of Broadcast Operations, Ian Wolfe. Ian served as a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy for over 3 decades, starting in the enlisted ranks and working his way up to become commissioned officer in 2008. Here's Ian right now, who is directing our show this morning from the NYSE Broadcast Center. There he is. Thank you so much, Ian, for your service. Now, the New York Stock Exchange has a long and storied history when it comes to Veterans Day. With the outbreak of World War I, the exchange closed its doors on July 31st. But we're going to take a pause and listen in on the clap-on. And there you just saw General Randy George walking onto the trading floor right now. He is speaking with members of our team here along with John Tuttle. Really just, it's an iconic moment having here at the New York Stock Exchange on the trading floor as we celebrate this hugely historic, significant day, Veterans Day. Now, the New York Stock Exchange has a long and storied history, as I was saying, when it comes to Veterans Day. With the outbreak of World War I, the exchange closed its doors on July 31st, 1914, remaining closed until December 11th of that year. A special committee of 5 on reopening the trading floor was appointed to determine which stocks could be traded starting the following day and at what price. 204 NYSE members fought in World War I for the U.S. military, 5 of whom gave their lives. More than 100 NYSE members worked full-time for the Red Cross and other support organizations. The New York Stock Exchange held 4 Liberty loan drives and 1 Victory loan drive to support the war effort, raising more than $23 billion from 1917 to 1919. This is particularly notable as it's the first time the exchange explicitly endorsed the purchase of a specific security. And one final nugget about the New York Stock Exchange during World War I, upon receiving the news of the armistice on November 11th, 1918, the NYSE Governing Committee convened a special meeting at 9:40 a.m., 20 minutes before the market opened, unanimously voting to close the exchange for that day. We here at the New York Stock Exchange have been honored to host members of the U.S. military over the past year. Exactly 1 year ago today, now retired General Mark Milley, the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, rang the opening bell here at the New York Stock Exchange. Let's take you back to that moment. Now that kicked off 2 days of celebration at the exchange. The Department of the Navy, the United States Armed Forces, and the greatest generation all took part in ringing the opening bell and closing bells to honor Veterans Day. Now in early January, my colleague Judy Shaw spoke with General Gary Brito, Commanding General, United States Army Training and Doctrine Command. General Brito was the first person to ring the bell here at the NYSE in 2023, and he told us why that moment was so special. Let's take a listen.
The moment is still soaking in, but over my shoulder, as you saw, 30 recruits representing all the services, 14 from the United States Army, who have chosen to join the service, which is great for our country, great for their opportunities as well. I would also like to thank their family members for supporting them to join. And I talked to several soldiers throughout the morning, some going active duty, National Guard and Reserve, and they're taking advantage of all the opportunities that the United States Army has to offer, over 150 jobs. Some going to be infantry soldiers, some intel specialists, one a cook, one a therapist. And it talks to all the opportunities that the United States Army that can offer. And whether they stay in for a short enlistment or 20 years, educational opportunities, certification opportunities, credentialing, and all the other benefits, tangible and intangible, that come with it will help them. So I couldn't be more proud to give these soldiers an opportunity to serve in our uniform.
So General, talk to me more about what these enlistees can expect to gain by choosing a career in the Army.
Certainly, one, great work ethic. This is a profession, not just a job. So they're joining something bigger than themselves and going to be part of a great team. And as I mentioned, several specialties that they're going to go through. So they're going to get some superb training, not only in basic training, when they go on to train in this specialty skill, whatever it's going to be. Therapist, infantry soldier, jump out of planes. I can guarantee they're going to get great training, great work ethic, profession, have a battle buddy, and then be able to contribute in uniform. And if he or she should get out after the first enlistment or stay in, contribute as well to society after the fact. The work ethic you gain, the professionalism, the skills, the trades, all just fit into our society and help our country.
Talk to me about why this is such a unique career choice.
It's a great profession, and our country needs a strong United States Army, and we've delivered that for many, 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 many years, and will continue to as well. I personally have been in the Army for a long time, well over 3 decades, because I like what I do, and these soldiers will contribute to that. So I'm very confident that we'll have a secure future. I'm 100% confident that we will give them what they need to serve well in the United States Army, and when and if they should get out as well. They will get great training, great leadership, and contribute to the work ethic and fiber that our country needs.
All right, now General, talk to me about you. You oversaw the enlistees with this enlistee ceremony, and but tell me about your background and what you're responsible for.
Well, I am the 18th Commanding General of the United States Army Training and Doctrine Command, and that's one of the major commands in the United States Army. Within the command is a United States Army Recruiting Command, has responsibility for bringing in soldiers to join the Army. The Assistance Command as well, officers, some of which you saw get a Minuteman Scholarship today. So we build that first line of readiness for the Army, bringing in soldiers training them, retaining them as well to assist the Army. So that's the big role. Me personally, I've been in the Army for 35 and a half years, a little bit longer. Love what I do. I'm going to stay in until they tell me to go. I came in as an infantry officer through ROTC, and I've served in a variety of assignments just like everybody, but I love who I serve with, and I know these soldiers will also.
Here at the New York Stock Exchange, right there in front of CNBC's set. There we go, the veterans, the active members, past and present here on the floor capturing this historic moment. It is just such a pleasure to be a part of it. Now, the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command has recruited and trained soldiers for half a century. The program was created on July 1st, 1973 under General William E. Depew, who commanded a battalion in the 90th Infantry Division in World War II and led the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam. Another meaningful moment for the exchange came in late May with Fleet Week, which honors the nation's sea services. Active military ships that were deployed overseas sail into New York City, a ceremony known as the Parade of Ships, and is timed to coincide with Memorial Day. It was during Fleet Week when Honorable Carlos del Toro, Secretary of the Navy, rang the closing bell here at the New York Stock Exchange. Let's take a look at that moment.
Just not enough ways to thank you and the New York Stock Exchange for what you do for these great sailors and Marines, to reassure them that America cares, that New York cares, that this New York Stock Exchange and all the companies that belong to this New York Stock Exchange care about each and every one of you.
Nearly 2,400 military personnel participated in Fleet Week that week, which celebrated its 35th year in New York City. While Fleet Week officially began here in New York right now, I actually want to point to what's actually happening on the floor again. Taking this moment, talking to John Tuttle, who was having a fireside chat with the general a little bit earlier this morning. We're going to actually speak with him in a little while when I meet everybody on the floor about what that closed door meeting was all about. But back to what I was saying, while Fleet Week officially began here in New York in the 1980s, its history extends much further than that. U.S. naval vessels have visited the city in celebration going all the way back to the end of the 19th century. That's not a misquote. The first such celebration was in 1898 when Commodore George Dewey was recognized as a hero of battle of Manila Bay. In late August, and here at the New York Stock Exchange, we welcomed the Intrepid Museum in celebration of the 80th commissioning anniversary of the USS Intrepid. Now we're going to listen in to a moment of silence, and we'll be right back. And that is the moment of silence honoring the more than 19 million men and women who have served in the U.S. military. Again, thank you to all of you for serving our country. And you know, the exchange has held a 2-minute moment of silence at 9:20 a.m. before the opening bell in recent years, but it wasn't always that way. Let's take a break now, how the NYSE's recognition of Veterans Day has changed over time. In other words, the New York Stock Exchange was closed all day on Veterans Day twice. In 1918, immediately following the end of World War I, and 1921. The NYSE was closed for 2 minutes each day, Veterans Day from 1922 through 1933, but then was closed all day from 1934 through 1953, including World War II and the Korean War. From 1954 through 2006, the exchange closed for 2 minutes at 11 a.m. before holding a 2-minute moment of silence before the opening beginning in 2007. Now, last year, I had the opportunity to speak with the Secretary of the Navy, Honorable Carlos Del Toro, who rang the closing bell on Veterans Day. Let's check it out.
Respect the work that you've done, and we follow in your footsteps, and it's our responsibility to take care of our veterans as a nation.
Carlos Del Toro rose to the United States Naval Academy, oversaw that vessel as its first CO from construction through its sea trials. And on December 4th, 2001, Commander Del Toro rang our opening bell, commissioned his ship that day, and then led the USS Bulkley into harm's way. 21 years later, we honor Secretary Del Toro, the sailors and soldiers of the Navy and Marine Corps, and the roughly 18 million American veterans alive today who have worn our nation's uniform.
I am joined here by Secretary of the U.S. Navy, Carlos Del Toro. Mr. Secretary, how are you feeling? You just rang the closing bell.
I'm feeling great, Trinity. To be here as Secretary of the Navy representing our Navy Marine Corps team on a day where we actually closed the markets 1,200 points up, doesn't get better than that.
What would you say is the most important characteristic for someone to have to be a part of the Navy?
Hard work, perseverance, integrity, conviction, those are all great attributes. And there is no better place to serve than our Navy Marine Corps team. And here I am today, having grown up in Hell's Kitchen as a poor, young Cuban American, and now Secretary of the Navy. It just doesn't get better than that.
I am now joined with Laura D'Orio, who heads our social media here at the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, what a great day. I mean, this is amazing, Laura.
I love it. I love telling these stories on social. I had just a few members of the U.S. Army asking me where they could find all these photos. We're taking all of these videos, and I said, well, you can find them at @NYSE, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're live now. And it's just such a privilege to be able to highlight these amazing stories. I mean, we bring the branches back every year. We have the general here, and everybody just has such a warm and gracious feeling, and it's really wonderful, honestly, to also have the floor so full and vibrant on this amazing day.
I know, it's truly amazing to be a part of it, capturing this iconic moment, this significant time in history, and, to honor the more than 19 million men and women who have served for us, So, but, like you said, a lot's been going on this week. Can you give our viewers a little social update, sort of like a weekly recap?
Oh my goodness, I've had one of the busiest weeks of my life here. We had so many wonderful creators come through. We had Glamour magazine celebrating Women of the Year. We had Bed Bath & Beyond coming back, rebranded as Beyond with Overstock. We had a very exciting post on our Instagram stories. I'm not going to spoil it. You can check it out at @NYSE. And I'll be rolling out all this amazing content, the photos and videos we've taken from this day, today and tomorrow on Veterans Day, a whole weekend of content. So it's really such a privilege to be able to do this.
Amazing. And I know you do have a job to do, so I will let you get back to that.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see.
Bell rings in 3 minutes. I got to warm these people up.
No, you gotta. I know. They're a little shy right now, but they're gonna start cheering.
We're going to have some fun. I mean, it's a Friday. We got to kick off the weekend.
Exactly.
Thanks,
All right, thanks,
Trinity.
Laura.
Bye.
All right, now as we get ready to open up the U.S. equity markets, we're going to take a look at some of the exciting things that happen here at the exchange. We'll be right back.
Connecting to opportunity is just part of the hustle.
Opportunity is using data to create a competitive advantage.
It's raising capital to help companies change the world.
It's making complicated financial concepts seem simple.
Opportunity is making the dream of home ownership a reality.
Writing new rules and redefining the game.
And driving the world forward to a greener energy future.
Opportunity is setting a goal.
And charting a course to get there.
Sometimes the only thing standing between you and opportunity is someone who can make the connection.
At ICE, we connect people to opportunity.
Okay, we are about a minute exactly out from opening up the U.S. equity markets. Everyone is going to erupt in a cheer. It happens spontaneously here on the floor as we are right in front of CNBC's set, and we like to disrupt their broadcast. Actually, Kramer is on right now. So we are going to hear everybody cheer and get excited. You guys, that's right. Everyone's going to get excited, right? And start cheering yourself. I know it's early, but you're going to have to be louder than that when we open up these markets, right?
We're ready.
They're just teasing you. I promise they're going to be much louder in just a few seconds. But now we're about 30 seconds out at 9:29 and 30 seconds. The crowd is going to erupt with excitement. Again, like I said, around 100 million people could be watching. Whoever is ringing that opening bell from around the world, all eyes are on them today because we're honoring Veterans Day. Now we're about 15 seconds out. Let's listen in to the opening bell. All right, that's official. The U.S. equity markets are now open, so it's only fitting that we get sort of like a market update from Michael Ranking. Why don't you tell everybody what you do here at the exchange?
Hi everybody, I'm Michael Ranking. I am the senior market strategist here at the New York Stock Exchange and head up the MAC desk, where we work very closely with management teams of listed companies when they do have questions in and around markets and the macro environment.
Okay, great. I want to talk about what's on investors' mind. What is top of mind today as we open up the markets?
Yeah, so we've just come off of the biggest rally that we've seen in equity markets since last June. We had 8 consecutive trading days where we were higher, and we broke that streak kind of yesterday. And then this morning, we're bouncing a little bit, but this week has really been, about some consolidation after we had this, as I just mentioned, this very big rally last week. And then we have some really big key catalysts coming up next week, including the inflation report and the retail sales numbers.
Now, despite yesterday's pullback, November has been a good month for investors so far. What do you think is driving this?
Right. So, last week we had a trifecta of events that started to move, the interest rate environment lower. We had the Treasury refunding statement coming in below expectations. Fed Chair Powell struck a little bit of a dovish tone where markets are starting to sniff out the end of the tightening cycle. And then we had some weaker economic data, which all sort of moved yields lower, and that really drove equity markets higher. And historically, if you look at markets from a seasonal perspective, the November and December timeframe tend to be very strong.
Tell me, what do you think is the next big catalyst that could move the markets?
Yeah, so next week we have a couple of catalysts. So we have the CPI report on Tuesday, which will give us our most recent read on inflation, and that will help drive some of the monetary policy decisions. And then we get retail sales. But I think what might even be a little bit more interesting than that is that we start to hear from the retailers, and as they start to report earnings, and they're going to give us kind of a real-time update in terms of the state of the consumer and and what the all-important kind of holiday shopping season looks like.
You had mentioned briefly labor statistics will be releasing their report, October inflation on Monday. What do you think we can expect from that?
All right, so we do get the inflation report on Tuesday, and I think we're going to continue to see kind of this disinflationary process that has been ongoing, over the last year continue to play out. We have seen prices at the pump really ease over the last month. And so at this point, it seems like, the Federal Reserve is pretty comfortable with where we are from a monetary policy stance, and they just want to see that data continue to move in the right direction.
Absolutely. A very busy month. A lot of things to look out for. What are you anticipating come the first quarter of 2024?
Yeah, so I think as we move forward, we have this very positive seasonal time frame. Markets are going to start to focus on the presidential election. If you start to look out, in terms of years when you have a presidential election, the first half of that year doesn't tend to be quite as strong, right? So we're going to have hopefully this kind of positive Q4, and then markets are going to need to really start to digest the kind of a little bit of slowing in the economy as we start to see kind of the lagged effects of monetary policy start to play in.
Michael Ranking, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the servicemen that are here.
Absolutely. Okay, now we're getting images right now of the whole team that are signing the wall right now. You should be getting pictures of that as they make their way down the secret staircase behind the bell podium as we get ready to do the cake cutting. Let's actually get images right here. We're in front of Kramer's set. He films Mad Money right here on the trading floor. This is the cake cutting. We're going to have some cake on cam in just a few minutes. But first, let's take a look at a message from our parent company, ICE. Okay, now we're just about a minute or two away as we get ready to have some cake on cam and talk to some of the service members, veterans, again, past and present, who have served our country, who have served us here, and we're gonna speak to them in just a few moments. But again, I want to take a look at everything that we have going on here. Oh, the general is signing the wall right now. We're getting images again. This is hugely significant because this wall features some of the names of some celebrities, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, world leaders who have walked through the doors of this iconic institution and etched their name on that very wall. So many people sign that wall, in fact, that we have to switch them out every few weeks or so because we just have so many fascinating people to come through these doors. And the general, again, is signing the wall. Now he is a part of this, the fabric of this iconic institution, etching his name alongside all of the celebrities, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who have also signed that wall by the secret staircase. They're making their way down. I'm going to speak with them in just a few moments. And the cake is just right behind me. I could hardly wait because I cannot wait to have a piece of this cake. And they are walking over to the cake right now. We're getting images. And let's just make sure that we don't miss this opportunity. See, they're going to be handed plates. We have members of our team here from the food and beverage team that are going to present them with plates as we get ready to have the cake cutting just right here on the trading floor. I have to say that this is the first time that I am seeing a cake cutting here on the trading floor. And again, this is an active trading floor. Between 1 to 200 traders are actively placing, in orders as the markets are now open. So there's going to be a point in time where you see the traders zipping past us. Our in-house photography team is also around here grabbing pictures, utilizing every opportunity here to capture this iconic moment. I'm going to speak with the U.S. Military Army Specialist Kevin Brave, Marine Corps Corporal Italio Dominguez, Navy Petty Officer 3rd Class Edward Stockpole, and the Air Force Airman 1st Class Richard Tots. In just a few minutes, but first we're going to listen in to the cake cutting.
But it also helps set the condition. Helps set the condition and the standards for the future. Traditionally, on this day, Marines around the world pause to celebrate the birth of our illustrious Corps. It can be a formal ceremony like this. It can be 2 veteran Marines in a house. And many times, it's been Marines in a muddy foxhole in a combat zone. We cut the cake with the sword to remind us that we must carry a sword so our nation may live free. 3 pieces of cake are cut. The first, presented to our guest of honor. The second is presented to the eldest Marine. This is to symbolize the experience and knowledge that is accordance to them. And the third piece is again presented to the eldest Marine, who symbolically passes it to the youngest Marine. This symbolizes the transfer of knowledge and experience from the old in our Corps to the young in our Corps. Your Marine Corps remains faithful to our nation. We fight in any climate and place. We're the first to fight when our nation calls. And at all times, we fight with a happy heart. Marines, happy birthday.
Right now, the cake cutting is official. We just heard from Colonel Nicholson. Oh, 1 second.
Congratulations. And to our youngest Marine, Lance Corporal Tate. It'll hurt too many people's feelings if I tell you when she was born. She is very young and she's doing great things in her unit. Thank you.
And there you have it. That is the cake cutting. And our in-house photography team, Allie, right now is getting images of this moment. Again, such an iconic moment to be able to honor the more than 19 million men and women who have served our country. And, you know, many of whom also work here at the New York Stock Exchange, keeping our country safe at a different capacity, keeping us safe here at the NYSE. And it's such a huge pleasure to be able to also honor our team members that we here have at the New York Stock Exchange. Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you? I mean, this is significant, right, to be here?
Yes, how you doing, Trinity, this morning?
I'm good. I mean, just tell me a little bit more about the significance of this day.
Well, I think Veterans Day for us is a great opportunity to really reflect on our service and the service of others. And we're just so excited to be here with you, Trinity.
It's the reflection of this day to us, and remembering what we've done in the service and fellow service members.
And tell me about the transition, from the military into the financial sector. What characteristics did you learn from your time in the military that you apply to your everyday life?
Well, I would say I'd start by a little bit of background. I joined the military in college at the U.S. Naval Academy, and I became a pilot. So I had a lot of experience at an early age and a lot of responsibility. And I think those skills are definitely transferable, but when you transition to finance, it's a completely different skill set. So you're in a new environment and you've got to learn new skills. But I think if you surround yourself with the right network, you can certainly accomplish whatever you need to.
What about you, Colin?
Like Laura, I was also Navy. I was a submarine officer. So after graduating from college, I went right into the Navy nuclear engineering program for 2 years, where we learned hard skills for the nuclear reactor. I was then stationed in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii for almost 7 years, where I was on a fast-attack submarine, did 2 deployments, one to the Western Pacific and one to the Middle East, where we're put in high-pressure situations where our decisions matter for the rest of the crew. Ultimately, I decided to get out and transition to the financial sector, where Blackstone has a military internship program that led me into the financial sector.
Do you have any advice for active duty service members that are looking to make the transition into the business landscape?
I could take that. I think with a little bit of hindsight, so I've been out of the military for about 2 years, and I would say that it's a lot harder than I had anticipated, and I think that experience kind of rings true with many others, even on Wall Street. And so my advice would probably be to consider the fact that there are many people ahead of you who have already made the transition. And I think that one thing is universally true is that people are willing to pay it forward. So I would say to veterans who are considering a transition to reach out, ask questions, and really not be afraid. It's fun to make the transition to the private sector.
Colin, do you have anything to add to that?
Completely agree with Laura. Leverage the network. You're not the first veteran transition service member to go through this. There's multiple veterans in finance. Leverage them, find them on LinkedIn or other means. We're happy to help.
Tell me more about what Blackstone has to offer when it comes to veteran programs.
Laura? Yeah, sure, happy to take it. So I co-chair the Veterans Network at Blackstone, and we do a series of activities where we're focused a lot on recruiting military talent, but we also like to involve the allies within the Blackstone community, and it really creates a rich environment and adds to our culture to have veterans and allies kind of working together on those causes.
Colin?
Back in 2013, Blackstone initiated the Veterans Initiative hiring program, which we set a goal for 50,000 veterans hired, veteran spouses and caregivers throughout our portfolio companies. We're happy that in less than 10 years, we actually doubled that mark and hit 100,000 veteran spouses and caregivers throughout the Blackstone and portfolio company network.
That's really amazing work. Well, thank you so much for both of you joining me today. I really thank you for your service and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Trinity, for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, enjoy the celebration and go get some cake.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to continue with our Veterans Day coverage just right after this break. I am joined now with Mr. John Tuttle, the president and chairman of NYSE Institute. Good morning, John.
Good morning. It's a great morning, not just a good morning.
I love how much energy you always have, but especially today.
Well, today's a special day, and we're reminded that every day what we do here in helping companies do great things and helping investors participate in that success, none of that would be possible unless we lived in a free, safe, and secure country. And so we have the opportunity to thank the women and men who have worn and bravely worn our uniform today. And so it's a very special day at the New York Stock Exchange.
Now, you had a fireside chat earlier this morning with General Randy George. Can you tell me a little bit about what you two talked about and the premise of the conversation?
Well, first of all, it was incredible to spend some time with the General and allow some of our broader team to hear his leadership lessons. Here's somebody that joined the service 40 years ago from a small town in Iowa and now commands over 1 million people in the United States Army. So not only learning about culture and leadership and how you evolve as you go through the ranks of an organization, but also how the military has modernized. We think about how that parallels to the New York Stock Exchange, and we talked a bit about that. I mean, he had been here 20 years ago, and we were a paper-heavy, person-to-person, very manual organization. And now on any given day, we're processing 1 trillion trades a day, or 1 trillion messages a day in a median response time of 26 microseconds. So the velocity and how much has changed here is mirrored by what's transformed in the United States military, and be able to compare notes and also learn from each other was really a special opportunity, not only for me, but for the broader attendees.
What would you say was the most impressive thing that the General said to you today? I know that's a loaded question.
Everything he said was impressive, because he's a very impressive guy, but I think it was a reminder that this organization, the military, and the country more broadly, it's all about people at the end of the day, and people in many cases interacting with increasingly sophisticated technology, but working towards a unified mission as well. And so hearing him say that and reinforcing that just reminds you that's what we should be focused on each and every day, who we're here to serve. And in our case, it's issuers, it's investors, and it's the country.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sean. I know that you have a very busy day ahead of you.
Yeah, well, early happy Veterans Day. Happy 248th birthday to the United States Marine Corps, and from one of the most special places on earth.
Amazing. Well,
thank
you so much. I'll see you later.
Take care.
All right. Well, I mean, that just about wraps it up, but I mean, I think the cake is still around here. I'm going to grab a piece of cake, but before we go, I'm going to toss it to my colleague, Josh King, with the last word.
Trinity, please save a piece of that cake for me. Happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps, 248 years young. You know, folks, there's a plaque affixed to the wall of our trading floor, right below me, right down here, that enshrines the names of those in our New York Stock Exchange community who gave their last full measure of devotion to their country in the Great War, in World War II, and the conflicts that came after. A measure, though untallied, are those that have served at one time or another in uniform, returned from that service, and resumed their careers here on Wall Street, which is the citizen soldier ethos of our country. On Veterans Day, each year, on the 11th hour of the 11th day, on the 11th month, commemorating the moment that the armistice took effect to bring an end to World War I, we pause to give them praise, and you met some of them today. The young men and women of Blackstone, that's NYSE ticker symbol BX, Laura Bizik and Colin Fighter. Trinity was just talking to them, an aviator, a submariner, when they had their uniforms on, now working for one of Wall Street's great companies at Blackstone. They put on their nation's uniform, volunteered to go into harm's way, and then returned home to resume their lives. We applaud every single person, from active duty, the reserves, the National Guard, who gives their treasured time to give something back to their country. The most famous citizen soldier, of course, was our first commander-in-chief, George Washington, who, after leading a new nation into battle, was inaugurated its first president a few hundred feet from where I sit today on the steps of Federal Hall on April 30th, 1789. In the spring of 1783, a couple years earlier, in upstate New York, a young colonel in the Continental Army named Alexander Hamilton, then all of 28 years old, led a meeting of his fellow soldiers in which they pledged to honor the bonds they formed among one another, just like Colin and Laura did down below. After that meeting, they vowed to continue their service in their civilian lives, forming the bedrock of a peaceful American society. They called themselves the Society of the Cincinnati. They took their name from Lucius Cincinnatus, the Roman warrior who freely surrendered his authority as he resumed again his work with his plow and returned to his hearth when his military work was done. Now, creating this leveling between military and civic duty is one of the great hallmarks of what we think of the highest virtues of the United States of America. Our unique form of democracy relies on citizen soldiers to ensure the blessings of liberty. Today at the New York Stock Exchange, my friend John Tuttle, you've just heard him talk to Trinity, hosted the Army Chief of Staff, General Randy George, for a fireside chat before they rang the opening bell, as many soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines looked on. General George received his commission from the United States Military Academy at West Point back in 1988 as an infantry officer and has been serving his nation ever since, as John just told Trinity. Last year at this time, and you saw it on that video that played right before Trinity's conversation with John, General Mark Milley, then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was up there on that podium with John. It was September 29th. After 43 years of service this year to his country, General Milley, who earned his commission at Princeton through the ROTC program, retired to his hearth, as did General Washington and Colonel Hamilton and the young men and women you met today. We owe them all our deep thanks. I'm Josh King, and that's the last word.
Together, we built something truly beautiful in the true iconic notion of what America is all about.
This is our task, this is our mission. We have a clear focus and we have the ability to be agile and innovate.
It takes years of dedication to get us to this milestone. It is all because of you.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. It is the only thing that ever has.
To be a woman leader, it's not so easy, but it's easy if the passion and the love is coming from your heart.
The New York Stock Exchange is the symbol of what America is all about. Potential of capitalism, the potential of an American dream.
The only way you can move a society forward is a true expression of freedom.